Hi everyone, welcome to DOdaily, Thursday Thoughts. Even by my standards, it's quite a late one. Of course, it's Des here, before I forget. Looking forward to another episode. Been really busy today. Been dying to get on for the last few hours, but one thing's led to another. So it's just a case of coming on, processing my thoughts, answering the questions that have been thrown my way. Appreciate all those that have come in, those wanting to pick my brains, get me thinking about this, that, and the other. Of course, that's what Thursday's all about, an opportunity to just get off your chest whatever you've got on it and just get me talking. A chance to interact, get involved, and be part of the show. Of course, I normally be on at 8 o'clock. It's now 11. So if you're watching back after the live show, please do drop in any comments of what you think. Like I say, just general chit chat. First is an opportunity for me to start coming to terms with the way the week's been and start thinking about one or two different things before heading into the weekend. Of course, I'll be back in the morning for Wake Up to Walk. But like I say, just an opportunity for others to get involved. Do a lot of talking about more serious things, the way things are going, the ups and downs, trying to articulate it and make sense of it. But on a Thursday, it's just a bit of everything, phoning, just giving me a chance to relax, although it's live at this time, it's a chance to relax. It does get me out of my comfort zone. But again, I do a lot of talking live on YouTube now, so it's more practice, talking about the things that, of course, people don't always feel uncomfortable with. DOdaily. It's not the easiest thing to try and sell. I've been talking for the last hour and a half, paying it forward by being on other people's YouTube channels when I should be on my own about football and things like that, helping others. And that's what I'm always going to do. So I've got no real regrets whilst I keep talking about getting back to the routines of what I do. It's just been one of those days where one thing has led to another. Most of it unexpected in reality. But what I will say to you before I go any further, what a day. I've had some really pleasant surprises today. Really nice things happen. What people have gone out the way to make a difference to the way I'm feeling. And as somebody who tries to help others, tries to support others, I don't do it to get those things back. But when people do, it's quite humbling, and hopefully I can show a little bit of humility and appreciation for what people are doing for me. Absolutely amazing the things that have happened. Anybody who's watched recently will know how excited I've been about Forest promotion. One or two signings and players. Somebody actually got me this as a wedding present today. Signed shirt from the whole Premier League squad with Morgan Gibbs-White. Shouldn't really have a favourite player at 42, should I? But a little bit of a fanboy when it comes to Gibbs-White. Really think he's a quality player and he had so much. So that given to me by somebody in the local, a guy I've got to meet recently, a really genuine top guy, somebody kind of think I'm a bit similar to, hoping to be anyway, a little bit older than me. If I can model myself on someone who's so kind and generous and gets things done for people like that because they know they'll appreciate it. That's definitely what I want to be. So that was a really nice touch given to me as a bit of a wedding present. So again, just sort of caps off everything that's happened there and put a smile on my face. Kind of distracted me a little bit, but what a distraction that. I'm going to get framed, put up. So what I will say, big shout out to Devo. Thank you for that. I can't thank you enough. Really appreciate it. And what a top guy you are as well. Further to that, talking to somebody about one or two opportunities, and again that kind of overran a little bit. It went into the evening, which really sort of put me off track. Always committed to the football channel, so kind of went from one thing to another. But when I'm talking about opportunities for myself, looking at again people noticing what I'm doing and wanting me to work with them, that's fantastic, isn't it? I can't ask for any more than that. All I'm ever trying to do. People often question what I'm trying to do, but all I'm ever trying to do is create opportunities like as well as helping people, supporting good causes, is create opportunities for myself. Not always been privileged to have things fall into my lap or do things, so the more I can do, I kind of understand that. I mentioned the word earlier, paying it forward can really help in that sense. So I'm quite a driven and determined person, as well as quite conscientious and try to help people. So like I say, when people ask if I want this kind of opportunity or that, I can't turn it down. And again, even if I've got an episode of DOdaily to do, I really, really can't turn it down. It's important for me to do it. So that's kind of how my day's been shaped. And then, like I say, being on that YouTube channel always turns into an elongated conversation, probably partly my own fault. But again, I love talking about football and I wouldn't change that for the world. So what a day in reality, doing all the things I love, getting some nice things come my way. Can't complain, can I? So after what's been a indifferent time since the wedding a week and a half ago, brilliant. Don't get me wrong, absolutely love the day, love the occasion, so much good spirit to come out of it, but just kind of became a little bit overwhelmed, and I took that little bit of a break. And since that, I've been talking about getting back to routine. But when these good things happen, I really can't complain. And I thought it's worth mentioning that heading towards the weekend, when it is probably looking a little bit quieter, I can just settle down again, appreciate what I've got here. Of course, we've got the dog, Stan, the new addition. So he's taking up a lot of the time as well. So, but wouldn't change it now. All the reluctance I've had to agree to having a dog, now it's just had a little bit of something special to mine and Kay's life as well. And again, it's just absolutely brilliant. What else can I sort of complain about? So it's fantastic. What I will say, appreciate, I've already mentioned it, but if anybody wants to get involved, drop any comments, whether you're watching live or after, that'd be brilliant. I'll get stuck into the questions without any further ado. Try and make it as quick as possible due to the time of night, without wishing things, of course, because that's not the point. The first question is actually about the dog. I didn't actually know what was coming. Kay's done this for me whilst I've been buzzing about around Nottingham doing certain things. Are you enjoying Dog Dad Live? This is from James. I just touched on it there. For as much as I was reluctant, I knew what sort of commitment it would bring. And the fact that I am quite often busy doing different things, working on several projects. Kay is exactly the same. She puts out as well. She does the brownies. She does the running clubs with me. She supports what I do. So one of the reluctances was that I thought that we just didn't have time. And in many ways, we don't. But in life, sometimes you got to go with things, haven't you? It's just a metaphor for most of the other things I speak about. You've just got to go with it. If you want something bad enough, you make it work. And I know she wanted it. So the surprise at the wedding, which turned out to be absolutely brilliant. People speaking to me in the last week or so saying, what a surprise that was, how amazing. There's some amazing pictures of Kay as well, receiving the surprise of getting a puppy on the day of the wedding. Those things we can't rewrite, we can't take back. So it's absolutely brilliant in that sense. Their memories I'll cherish forever. And finally, it seems it took a while, but the dog's starting to warm to me. We have a little fuss during the day between things we've got to do. And like I say, it took a while. And I was starting to think, this dog don't like me. Of course, Kay has mothered it and loved it and does everything she needs to do, feeds it, cleans its poo up, all those things. But now I'm starting to play with it, fight with it, and really, really loving it. As soon as I saw it, to be honest, even before I'd given it to Kay, kind of fell in love with it, because that's what we do, aren't we? We're always big softies at heart. So yes, loving it. It's not easy. Anybody who's thinking about getting a dog, I totally suggest it in terms of the feeling you get from it, but they're naughty. Puppies are a little bit more than I thought they were going to be. Not that was naive going into it, but absolutely loving it. So thanks for that question. Great way to start as well, isn't it? On a light-hearted note. Question number 2. I'm looking forward to seeing you pick things up with the running again. What are your top tips for starting after a break? It's been a year since I last ran. Oh, I'm totally glad I got this question because again, it's something I've been pretty determined to set about. Again, I have been struggling myself for all that time, never really got going. And again, the frustrations of the routine, moving not quite working, things to do. This week I've had toothache. One of the things I've not mentioned, again, just being positive. I didn't even think not to mention it. Is I've had my tooth out today. I mentioned it a lot yesterday and how much it was causing me grief. So these things have kind of been holding me back a little bit. Every time I've thought about, yeah, this is the time. Of course, the wedding gave me another opportunity to go again, and I got poorly, got toothache. So yeah, it's a case of just almost making yourself accountable, isn't it? Finding things that you know you want to do. I've been talking a lot about DOdaily, get my vlogs out again. You know, perhaps it seems in the last year or so that I've not been committed to one or two things, but I can show when I really get into it how committed I am. And the big thing is making yourself accountable. If it's been a while, you know, make the commitment to run with people. I always say that. It's part of the reason I do the running club. I do coaching sessions where I encourage the guys along. Sometimes that involves me coaching, sometimes it's taking part, sometimes it's being the example. But again, it's being around it, it's being inspired by it. And I mentioned on Tuesday's episode, whilst I was feeling a bit run down, the toothache, the illness, you know, I was around those people. And again, it's building that feeling of making me want to go and do it. I was actually at the Great North Run last weekend, and supposed to be doing that, and I just wasn't, because of the illness, because of the toothache. It's a recurring record, but I didn't do it. But being around them, you know, I dragged myself out of bed. There was a point I didn't even want to go to the finish line and support the guys on, not because I didn't want to do it, because I just felt so rubbish. But I dragged myself up, and when I'm there, I'm thinking, I need a little bit more of this. I need to get involved, and I can't wait till next year. The Great North Run itself was where I got my PB, so it'll be a great place to almost train back to. Where I'm at the moment with my running is almost clicking back to the beginning. And again, that could be a tip within all of this. If you just remember what worked last time and just take exactly the same steps. For me, it meant losing a bit of weight. I never actually intended on running. It was losing a bit of weight, feeling a bit better about myself, feeling a bit more comfortable. So perhaps I need to go down that route, you know, and again, just figuring out what works best. I think remembering what works, being accountable, you know, if you know you can do it, get somebody to meet you, go to a running group, you know, say you're going to do this, put out a challenge, do a fundraiser, all great ways to get you going. I think when you start running, that's a lot of it, you know, almost saying you're going to raise this money, do this, and do whatever you possibly can. So just a few ideas there, but as ever, it's just a case of just doing it, isn't it? It's a case of just getting out there, doing what you need to do, and just getting some activity. And once you do it, I'm always the same. I'll go out and do a run. It might not be fast, it might not be pretty, but those endorphins get going. I want to tell everyone about it because that's what we do as runners. Again, people might think, why did they do that? Because we're feeling good about ourselves, because we're feeling positive. And that's all that matters sometimes, isn't it? So just get out there and do it. Say it now. Make the comment, I'm going to go and do it. And believe me, you're much more likely to do it. So thanks for that question. Really, really appreciate that. It's great to sort of get that in. Just a comment coming in here from the True Red. Glad the football is back. It was the right decision last week to call games off due to the Queen sadly passing away, and the right thing to do. Respect to my opinion. I tell you what, the True Red, I totally agree. There's lots of people questioning it right now, saying, should the football have been called off? And in many ways, I look at it, and the other sports was on, weren't they? The rugby, the cricket. And it was a bit frustrating as a football fan to see those things on and not the football. And we all know the Queen she was all about community and involvement. Some of the things I try and sort of pass on through DOdaily. You know, when you're wanting to do good and support people, that's what you encourage. So I can see reasons for it, but I kind of agree that, you know, this is a one-off occasion. And if one thing was going to be off, I would have expected it all to be off. So I don't agree in that sense, but the reality is, in many ways, I can understand it. You know, we have to pay respects. It's somebody who's kind of led things in such a way. If anybody's watched this over time, especially through the COVID times, I've been a bit critical of leadership skills of certain people. But the one thing that the Queen was, she was a leader, wasn't it? She led by example. And if we're going to respect anybody in this country, through these difficult times, when we all might question this person or that person, for me, yes, I am a little bit of a royalist, and I do support that. Might get battered for those comments, but I think it's time to pay some respect and do what we have to do. So if it meant the football for a week went missing, we can get back to that. And again, it'll just make another thing to somewhere else, wasn't it? Always trying to find the positive. So really appreciate that comment that you read. If anyone's got any comments, anything to add, please do comment. That would be absolutely fantastic. Please give the episode a thumbs up. And of course, subscribe to the channel. Just trying to be a real, normal, honest, genuine person through this. It's just the way I want to be, talk candidly and open about the way I'm feeling. Anything that anyone's got to add. Like I say, first is a bit of a free-for-all. If you've got any questions to add, please drop them on. Any comments like the two read there, I'd love to answer those as well. Question number 3, this is an interesting one. I did actually know this one would come through, even though Kate's put these together for me. I live alone and often don't speak to anyone for long periods of time, which makes me feel down. Do you have any advice to boost my mental health? I do actually, and again, I love these kind of questions. It means getting that little bit deeper. It means getting into my own sort of conscience and where I've been and what I've done and how things have been a bit of a struggle in the past. It brings it up, makes it fresh in my mind. It's not always the best thing, but sometimes it's a great reminder as well. But this is what I'm here for as much as anything. I love the light-hearted stuff, talking about the dog, talking about the running. They're real passions of mine now, of course, and anything to do with football. But this is where I want to make a little bit of a difference, where I want to help people and support. Not by being too clever about it, not by being technical or scientific or talking about the neuroscience behind this and what the brain does then, because people switch off to that, don't they? People switch off to that kind of thing. Just want to sort of say how I've dealt with it, because I feel like I'm a real person, hopefully people see it that way, a genuine person who's just experienced it, a lived experience. There is much easier to take advice from that sometimes. People often listen to people in the media or on the television and take it as read, that's the way it should be. But they've not always lived it. It's easy sometimes to preach, dictate, say it whichever way you want to get it across for people. But the reality is, until you've lived it and understood it, nobody really understands. And that's one thing I learned. It takes a lot of listening, takes a lot of patience, it takes a lot of hurt and sort of anger and frustration, especially in this situation. I found myself about 7 years ago in this situation. Of course, I'm lucky now. I got married last week. I did a speech after the wedding where I said how far I'd come and what my relationship done for me and how much I appreciate the people around me. But it all started by sort of admitting to myself that life was a bit shit. It was a bit difficult. It was tough. Found myself living on my own. A relationship had broken down. Work had gone in a way that I'd never thought it would. I'd not been perfect in my actions, in all of that. I'm not claiming to be an angel. And I just found myself there with sort of not a great deal to do. And it can get tough. For as much as I feel like I'm a sociable person, I'm not the most outgoing when I'm talking to someone face to face. Naturally shy. People might think, what a load of rubbish that is. But I am quite naturally shy and reserved and sort of watch things and pick up things. So it's not easy when you need to sort of put yourself out there. You need to meet people. You need to do things. And at my age in particular, it was hard because, don't get me wrong, I'm not that old. At the time, I was about 35. It can be tough to sort of relate to people because it's almost like you feel a bit of desperation, that next move, you need a friend, or if it's a sort of female relation or relationship or something like that, it's almost like you feel like you're trying too hard or you feel like you're pushing something when you're really not. It's that hint of desperation that creeps in, which again, until you admit it, until you take a step back and go, what am I actually doing? I just need to be calm. I just need to be normal. I need to look after myself a little bit, because we're all reaching out for that next best thing sometimes. being on your own, as much as it's easy for me to say now, I've got one of these things on my finger. It's not the worst thing in the world. Looking back, you get a lot. Again, trying to find the positives in things, you get a lot of time to do what you want to do. Things are done in your way, and then it's a case of waiting and meeting the right person. And I had to do that. It wasn't easy. You got, for all those things I've just said, that hint of desperation creeps in because you're trying to prove things to yourself, to others. And the reality is you've just almost got to think of yourself. And for me, it goes back to that losing weight, doing the running, building up that little bit of positivity in time. When you're there, you think you need everything. Today, the reality is when you do it slowly, when you work at it, when you make yourself feel better, me losing weight, achieving great things on my own. Now, every time I see people achieve things or do it with others, I feel fantastic because I realise how far I've come. Don't look back at it and shy away from it. I'm not scared of it. Of course, I'm talking about it right now. So it's a case of just realising what you have got, rather than what you haven't. And I can assure most of the people who are in this situation, I felt it myself. You feel like you've got no friends. You feel like friends are doing different things. I was talking about age then and got a little bit distracted. But 35, you kind of think, my friends are all married off or got children, got commitments, and they're not bothered about me. And again, that's where the bitterness and anger sort of comes in. But what you have to do is find something that ignites the passion in you. And for me, it was always football, getting into sort of losing weight, giving me those targets to work to, that little bit of achievement. And then the running took that to another level. Ultimately, by making a decision to look after myself, lose weight, feel good about myself, go out, go running, get the endorphins flowing, it put me in situations where other people ran. And that's why I developed a real passion and started to relate to people again. And ultimately, even further down the line, it led me to Kay and the situation I'm in now, with all the nice things that have happened in the last few weeks and few years especially. So again, I totally sympathise with it. It's not an easy one, and it's easy for me to sit back now and say this is how it's been, but I have lived it, and I'm not, I said it before, I'm not scared to talk about it because I know how difficult it can be. It's almost like you question everything. You question, it's like, am I doing this because I really believe in it, or am I doing it because I'm a little bit desperate, or am I doing it because my mental health's not great, or am I doing it because I want to? But the only way to get through that is almost stop that and focus on what you really need to do. At the start of my journey, I've mentioned this quite a lot, I was living on my own, didn't know what my next move was. Work had not been great, as I mentioned. Relationships had not been great. I made myself 3 little targets. To get a job was the first one. To lose a bit of weight by the end of the year. And I always say this, I can never remember the third one. It was that small and irrelevant, but I'd done them all in a couple of months. And once you've done that, you can do things. You can get better. You can get to a point you want to be. So hopefully that all makes sense, guys. Really, really appreciate that question. I know where that's come from. I know the person as well, and I know how important it is to sort of understand where they're at and what they're doing. But again, I just urge you to just realise that there's lots going on out there. You've got to have a social life amongst all the commitment, everything you do and you enjoy and you want to enjoy. There's got to be a downtime as well. And sometimes that downtime on your own is precious, and it just gets you to where you want to be. So thanks for that question. That honestly, I'm just going to sort of build on that just a little bit. I really do appreciate that kind of stuff. So if you've got anything to add along those lines, please email me at des@DOdaily, and I get lots of emails throughout the months as I've done this. Just saying this is my situation. Des, what do you think? And I love that side of it. Of course, through the adversity of people actually feeling like that, it'd be better not to have to talk about it, but this is what I want to do. I want to support people, help people, encourage. I've got aspirations to take it a bit further myself as well, and do it a bit more professionally. But for now, it's about talking on the YouTube channel, being honest, being open, being that place where people can check in, and that's why I'm doing what I do here. So if you've got anything to add to absolutely anything that's said so far, It'd be absolutely brilliant. And of course, on that note, I'm going to sort of leave you with a throwback question. Didn't have one because I took that little mini break last week, but what's something you used to do that you'd like to start up again? Again, I've said it there, haven't I? Going back to the beginning. The key there, the key to my running is going back to basics, but also all the reflection I've done over this precious time in my life and trying to understand where I'm at. It's almost going back to the beginning. I spoke about being at the running event and remembering a time when I was on my own. I was having this conversation with somebody after that running event who was a little bit insecure about the way they were feeling. And I just said, I didn't find it easy this weekend. I'd gone to Newcastle to do a running event. I end it by talking about my whole experience and how good it was and how much I want to go back there. It'd been indifferent along the way, but whilst it was a little bit uncomfortable, it's just that getting out of the comfort zone again, isn't it? Getting it all out there and getting it off your chest. And the more you can do that, the more you can come to terms with where you're at. Accept it. Acceptance is a massive thing. I had a lot of conversations in the last couple of weeks. Whatever it's about, whether it's about me, others, tiny little things or big things, it's about accepting who you are and where you're at and what you can do about it. And that's the most important thing, because ultimately we are the only ones that can do anything about it, because if we choose not to, nothing's going to change it. So you can listen to me, trying to be realistic. You can listen to the guys on the telly. You can think you know best, until you sort of accept where you are and what you can do to make it better. Nothing's ever going to change. So that's my encouragement for all of that. And believe me, it can happen. I started by talking about all the positive things, and I'd almost forgot about the tooth. It is hurting. It's really, really hurting today because it's been pulled out, and it's uncomfortable. And now I think about it, it's making me sort of think about that side of my mouth. But I nearly forgot about it because of everything that's good that's happened. And when you program your mind a little bit, don't get me wrong, I'm not sat there and tried to tune it and consciously thought about it. But when you think about the positive stuff, it just programs you into sort of keep doing it, keep looking for the next good thing. And that's all I'm doing. Today's been a good day, really, really good day, really made me smile, unexpectedly. And again, I always say, when things are a little bit different, it changes for the best like that. It can change the other way, unfortunately, but it's all about that acceptance and dealing with it. I've done that, a bit of a tricky period, a bit overwhelmed after the wedding, not too bad. Took my little break. We sort of reinvigorated myself a little bit, trying to motivate myself through all the good things. And again, the good things just start happening, don't they? You exude positivity and the positivity starts exuding itself back. So, keep going, guys. Keep putting it in. Really, really appreciate those questions. Really great to go out. I appreciate how late it is as well. If you can catch up, if you can drop some comments, drop a like, and of course, subscribe to the channel. Got a nice little thumbnail. I've not even mentioned that. Another nice little thing. One of my friends who's on YouTube sent me a thumbnail I can use for DOdaily. Bit of a caricature, which I found highly amusing and brilliant. So going to use that. Check out that in the forthcoming episodes. Just again, just trying to add a little bit of something to what I do, make it a bit more branded to myself and DOdaily. So stay tuned. Have a great evening, or morning if you're watching it. Catch up with that next session of Wake Up to Walk. It'll be available from 7 p.m. tomorrow night. Going to be out and about, reflecting on all the things I've said so far this week, making the most of the morning and getting up early. Hopefully, the tooth's calmed down a bit. It's better than it was yesterday, believe me. So, again, another positive. Hopefully, it'll be that little bit better and I can really sort of take in the fresh air, look forward to that slightly quieter weekend and doing all the things I want to do. And that's all it's about, isn't it, guys? Just doing it.